from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Olumide Macaulay.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, Tribunal affirms the election of Doyediri as Bayelsa State Governor as it dismisses all three petitions against his victory in the 2019 governorship poll. The All Progressives Congress and People's Democratic Party in Edo State continue their campaign in the state capital, Benin City, ahead of the September 19th governorship election. Governor of Katsina State, Aminu Masari, raises more concern over continued banditry in communities, insists the service chiefs have more to do. And independent poll shows that half of medics in Russia reject the country's COVID-19 vaccine due to be rolled out at the end of this month. Plus business, sports news, and news from Abuja.
On business news tonight, Securities and Exchange Commission to hold first Capital Market Committee meeting for this year next week.
On sports news tonight, the Confederation of African Football postpones FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup qualifiers on the continent.
Politics is top in the news today, with the frontline parties in the upcoming governorship elections in Edo State hitting the home run in their campaign as they tour communities in Benin metropolitan area canvassing for votes. But we begin with today's judgment of the tribunal in Abuja affirming the election of Mr. Doyediri as the duly elected governor of Bayelsa State. A three-man panel of the tribunal led by Justice Mohammed Sirajo affirmed his election and dismissed three petitions filed by different parties court challenging his emergence as governor. The petitions dismissed by the tribunal were filed by the Alliance for Democracy, the United People's Congress, and the Liberation Movement and their candidates.
In line with COVID-19 protocols, access to the Bayelsa State Governorship Election Tribunal in Abuja is restricted to a few lawyers and litigants. The panel delivered judgment on three petitions, starting with the petition filed by Mr. Uwe Moniwe and his party, Alliance for Democracy. Justice Sikiru Owoduni, who delivered the judgment, held that the deputy governor is eminently qualified to have contested the election, having fulfilled the provision of Section 177 of the Constitution, and the alleged error on the certificate was corrected by the NYSC, which was also corroborated by a director from the Corps. The sum of 200,000 naira is awarded in favor of all the three respondents except INEC. In the second petition filed by BNS Stephen, the United People's Congress against INEC, Senator Doyediri and his deputy challenging the eligibility of the deputy governor, Justice Yunusa Musa, dismissed the petition on the ground that it was statute barred and the tribunal lacked the jurisdiction to entertain pre-election matters. The sum of 200,000 is also awarded in favor of the respondents. The chairman of the tribunal, Justice Mohammed Sirajo, seals the fate of Mr. Vija Opwama and the Liberation Movement as he held that the petition is not sustainable, having been founded on pre-election matter. The sum of 200,000 naira is also awarded in favor of the respondents in the petition. Although the lawyer to Governor Doyediri applauds the verdict of the tribunal, a lawyer to one of the petitioners disagrees.
We are very happy with the outcome of the petitions. Three judgments today, all of them in our favor. And it's very, very interesting because if you listen to the judgment, you'll see that these are cases that ought not to have come before the tribunal in the first place.
We've listened to the judgment, and our take is that this is a technical justice instead of substantial justice. The court, of course, is at liberty to go with either the technicalities of the matter or the actual merit of the matter.
The deputy governor, however, extends a hand of fellowship to the petitioners as he dedicates his victory to God.
We thank God that at last again, the judiciary in Nigeria has proven to what we expect them to do. And they are risen again to the occasion. Like we mentioned, when I appeared here, the last time I was summoned by the tribunal for purposes of morality and for respect for the judiciary, and to ensure and to prove to Nigerians that we had no skeleton in our cupboards and that we also did not do anything wrong. We came.
Senator Diri, who came second in the 2019 governorship election in the state, was declared the elected governor following a Supreme Court judgment disqualifying the All Progressives Congress candidate David Lyon, who was earlier announced winner of the poll by INEC.
Over now to Edo State, where the All Progressives Congress and its candidates in the upcoming governorship election in the state have disassociated themselves from the recent political violence that occurred during the PDP campaign rally in Isaka West local government area of the state. The candidate of the APC, Pastor Sage Zeyamu, who briefed journalists in Benin City, the state capital, explained that the party's campaign across the state has been generally peaceful and that his party has no reason to encourage violence in an election it's confident of winning. Pastor Zeyamu made these clarifications before his team launched out for the day's campaign.
For the past 1 week, the APC has been touring Edo State as it continues its campaigning ahead of the election day in September. The party takes a break to brief journalists about what it knows concerning the recent shootings that occurred when the PDP campaign trail visited part of the state.
All our movements, our rallies and our meetings have been conducted very peacefully. There's no time we or our followers have engaged in any destruction of the properties of any other political party.
The team hits the road again in continuation of the campaign with Abudu, the headquarters of Orionwa local government, as its first port of call. The APC candidate, Pastor Sage Zeyamu, again takes to the stage to share his vision and mission as he seeks the #1 job in the state.
Abudu is the local government headquarters. If we do not get us, how about it going to do? How about the area of Orionwa? Total darkness. By the grace of God, I don't tell you that. Electrification, roads, water, hospital, good school, we will bring to Orionwa.
From Abudu, the team moves to Oedo local government area in Benin City, which has the highest voting population in the state. Addressing the crowd, the former APC national chairman, Adams Oshomole, insists that the current governor does not deserve a second chance.
That people understand why we are giving the airtime. When they build more schools, he closed the existing one. So he has closed the College of Education, closed the College of Agriculture, closed the College of Education, the Kaduna, closed the one in the Kwebe, and he says he's doing the best.
It's a matter of weeks to D-Day, and the All Progressives Congress has continued to assure the people of its determination to take Edo to the next level if given the mandate.
Meanwhile, members of the People's Democratic Party in Oedo local government of Edo State have been marching in support of Governor Godwin Obaseki's re-election bid. The party members who were later joined by Governor Obaseki said they will mobilize to ensure he wins the election. Earlier, other groups also marched around the city to drum up support for the PDP candidate.
The 4+4 Togba Field Marshals, a support group for the Governor Godwin Obaseki and his deputy Philip Shaibu's re-election bid, make the Ring Road area of Benin City, the Edo State capital, their start-off point for their walk on Friday. Along the Mission Road, they encounter residents who respond to their mantra.
4+4, non-negotiable. It must complete 4+4. Nobody they change that.
The convener sends a reminder to registered voters.
Freedom is not easy. It is not easy to be free. But today, we have killed God for that reason. We are set to bury God for that Fadarism comes September 19.
Less than 24 hours later, the Ring Road again hosts another group, members of the PDP in Oedo local government area. The Edo State Governor makes an appearance, which excites the crowd. He tells them how their votes would benefit the entire state.
Now, with what you have started, by the grace of God, you will now empower those of us in government to take decisions that are in the best interest of everybody, not a few people. With what you are doing now, you have permanently put an end to godfatherism.
Some federal lawmakers are also here.
You know how you do it before? You remember? Umbrella, PDP, Tua.
Obaseki education today is better. Obaseki today industrial park is there. Obaseki reform in any area is obvious.
The campaigners then continue toward other areas with their message.
Now, staying with the upcoming governorship election, but as it relates to Ondo State, for which the APC has inaugurated the National Campaign Council to lead the campaign ahead of the poll in October. Addressing party members after the inauguration in the nation's capital, Abuja, the chairman of the campaign and governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, said the team will rise to the occasion and ensure victory for the serving governor, Rotimi Akeredolu. He said the committee members consider the appointment as an honor and will use their experience to achieve their mandate come October.
What we just had inside was the inauguration of the National Council for the Ondo election, governorship election. And humbly so, I have been so sworn in as the chairman of that council. And your first observation was that we had a pretty large number. It's a reflection of how many number of people truly want to serve our party. It's a reflection of how committed our members are, and how passionate they are to continue to want to serve the party at the national level. And so when you are called upon at this, I think it's not only a personal honor, it's also an honor for your state that you've been identified and you are willing to serve, to come and deliver the election that we believe, by the grace of God, on the 10th of October 2020, our brother, our friend, His Excellency Governor Rotimi Akeredolu
done enough to stop the attacks. The governor stated this in Hausa at the Kandadani village in Rimi local government area of the state, where he presented 10 million naira check to women and education support grant to 701 students from the area.
Allah shi ya saboda haka wajibi ne dukkan mu muna da rawar da zamu taka akan mutum maganar tsaro. Wato wata magana ba ta faɗo a kasuwa, amma dai an yi karatun tanar shugaban kasa duk abin da zai yi na tsaro ya yi. Domin ku bi masu aiki tsaron nan. Duk masu aikin da nan daga yana suke zama assalamu alaikum. Yanzu mafi yawan faɗan nan ya dawo cikin karkara. Ɓarayin nan sun zo sun shige cikin mutane sun zanna. Mun san su, mun san ko 'ya'yan su waye. Gane ɓarawo a ƙauye bai da wahala. Menene rashin wahala shi? Ka san sana'ar mutum. Ka san girman gonarsu. kasan shanun hoton su ko jakunan da ke gidansu ko hakin da ke nan ba a sai da jakin ba a sai da akuyar ba abin da aka sai kan shi ya so ba furka ba wajen 200 da wani yana hidima wadda baya iya bayani to ai kai ka san.
In part 2, after the break, more stories on security. And the COVID-19 fight in Oyo State gets a boost as a new isolation center is activated at the University College Hospital in Ibadan. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television, Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Tribunal affirms the election of Doyediri as Bayelsa State Governor as it dismisses all 3 petitions against his victory in the 2019 governorship poll. The All Progressives Congress and People's Democratic Party in Edo State continue their campaigns in the state capital, Benin City, ahead of the September 19th governorship election. Governor of Katsina State, Aminu Masari, raises more concern over continued banditry in communities, insists the service chiefs have more to do. And independent poll shows that half of medics in Russia reject the country's COVID-19 vaccine due to be rolled out at the end of this month. Plus, business and sports. Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. To security, where the Nigerian Air Force says its jets attached to the Operation Thunderstrike have neutralized several terrorists and bandits at their camp in the Kuduru Forest area of Kaduna State. According to the Defense Media Operations Major General John Eneche, this was achieved during the airstrikes carried out on Thursday on the heels of intelligence reports indicating the convergence of bandits linked to the Ansaru terrorist camp led by one Malam Abba at the location. He explained in a statement that aerial surveillance missions conducted over the area also observed several bandits wielding weapons in the forest. He said this necessitated the deployment of Nigerian Air Force jets as well as helicopter gunships to attack the location, resulting in the killing of several bandits. To health matters as they relate to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Chief Medical Director, University College Hospital, Ibadan, Professor Jesse Otegbayo, says that the hospital has lost 18 persons out of the 159 COVID-19 patients it's treated so far. He made the comments during the commissioning of new isolation center at the University College Hospital. The Chief Medical Director also states that coronavirus cases treated by the teaching hospital were severe, with some of the patients having underlying health conditions. Our correspondent, Bukola Oriowo, reports.
This 20-bed isolation center, donated to the University College Hospital, Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, was facilitated by the UCH Health Foundation to help in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. The facility, which used to be a tuberculosis center, was upgraded to a standard infectious disease center, making it the second in the state. According to the hospital's chief medical director, there's hope of better management of infectious diseases at the hospital as a new department for infectious diseases at UCH is underway.
The Board of Management approved the establishment of an infectious disease department and a unit of clinical virology to this facility. I also want to thank the Oyo State government, particularly His Excellency Engineer Sheyi Makinde, who is the chairman of the Oyo State COVID-19 Task Force, for supporting the hospital through various generous donations he had approved. in the fight against COVID-19 infection.
The CMD further states that the Tunde Afolabi Infectious Disease Center has been well equipped for faster recovery of patients.
The equipment we've taken delivery of, we have state-of-the-art hospital beds. We have multi-parameter monitor for all the beds. We have a 60 kVA generator. We are developing the kitchen and the laundry and the waiting area for patients.
I most especially thank
the State's Commissioner for Health is grateful to the management of UCH for the support to help reduce mortality as a result of COVID-19.
This present administration has established and equipped both ambulatory and stationary isolation and well-equipped centers across the 6 health zones of the state, with putting up of the emergency operation center permanently against not only COVID-19, but all other infectious diseases like Ebola, Lassa, and all the rest.
So far, over 159 positive cases of COVID-19 have been treated, with 18 fatalities recorded at the UCH. The state government is optimistic that the new center would help reduce the fatalities as it speeds up recovery of patients. Bukola Uriowo, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, over in Kaduna, the state government has reopened the Sheikh Abubakar Gumi Central Market in the state capital after about 5 months due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Gumi Central Market was shut alongside other major markets across the state following the outbreak of coronavirus in the country. The authorities say it was reopened with an understanding that traders will ensure strict adherence to all the stipulated safety protocols in curtailing the deadly pandemic.
For the first time in almost 5 months, the gates to the popular Sheikh Abubakar Gumi Central Market in Kaduna State are open to traders, shop owners and even customers for business. But before entry, they observe the COVID-19 safety protocols, washing their hands and wearing of masks. A red line is also drawn on the floor to create a gap between traders and customers. Gradually, life returns to the market as the traders reopen and resume their businesses. Although they are happy to be back, they count their losses over the past months.
My joy has no bounds, but at the same time, we will resume with mixed feelings because it's not easy. Going to 5 months, we have been out for business. As you can see, this is most of my goods. I do sell shoes and bags. All of them have worn out. They are spoiled in the shop. The money to continue the business is very big problem. We have exhausted the money we have on hand to do the business.
We thank God, though, it's not easy. We have feared it. Sun, rain, everything has beat us. We have suffered. Our business have gone down, but we thank God, though, today they have opened it today.
My business, everything has gone down. So we need help now.
The management believes the new rules will prevent a rapid transmission of the virus in the state.
What we suggested was that, first of all, this is in addition to the use of face masks, washing of hands, providing sanitizers, ensuring that people's temperatures are checked at the gate of entrance, and all of those.
It's been a distressing experience for traders in Kaduna whose shops were shut down in the wake of the pandemic.
Thank God for Jesus.
But as they settle down for business again, they say they are ready to abide by the safety guidelines to contain the virus in order to avoid a second phase of lockdown by the government.
296 more Nigerians have been evacuated from the United Kingdom. The citizens arrived at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, from the Gatwick Airport, London, via Air Peace flight. And according to the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, all have proceeded on a 14-day self-isolation as mandated by the NCDC. The evacuation comes a day after 170 Nigerians stranded in Dubai also returned home on a flight paid for by the government of the United Arab Emirates. For 3 months since May this year, both the federal and state governments in Nigeria have continued to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic, exploring different tactics aimed at breaking the chain of transmission. Apart from building and equipping isolation and treatment centers, a lot of emphasis, especially by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, has repeatedly stressed the need for citizens to make use of non-pharmaceutical interventions such as face masks, hand washing, and physical distancing. Our next report examines these safety protocols as well as how some people view the disease and the protocols as issued by the government.
When the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 announced the first phase of the ease lockdown in May this year, it came with so much responsibilities that citizens are expected to adhere to. Some of these responsibilities include regular hand washing, the use of alcohol-based sanitizers, and the mandatory use of face masks in public places. To ensure compliance, some states, including the FCT, set up special task forces to enforce these requirements. Mobile courts were set up in some cases to try defaulters. 3 months down the line, the level of compliance with these protocols remain very low.
Majority of Nigerians, irrespective of status, creed, and level of education, continue to live in denial on the virulent nature of the virus and consistently breach the guidelines and non-pharmaceutical measures put in place.
On the streets of Abuja, Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory, some citizens share with us their views regarding the existence of COVID-19 as well as the safety protocols.
I use when I am compelled to use. I want to enter a bank, you say I must use. Because I want to enter the bank and leave, I will use it. I use it when I want to enter offices, and anywhere I'm not so convinced, I will use, because the law said we should use it.
I also know 1 or 2 persons who, in their places of work, and 1 or 2 people who are contacted. So because I want to be safe, and that is why I'm wearing the nose mask. You see, this mentality of Africa, sometimes somebody just believes in God and said, I just believe that nothing will happen, without taking a major prevention. So prevention is very, very good. Yes, we believe in God. You have faith in God. You understand? But the issue is that we should also know that there is a need for us to take precaution.
I'm using face masks in order to, to prevent myself. It's just to prevent, you understand? Either it exists or not. I still have to prevent myself.
Currently, there is neither a vaccine nor a single cure for COVID-19, as healthcare practitioners say they continue to work on boosting the immune system of patients and treat their symptoms as they manifest. The only known proven prevention, they say, remains the use of non-pharmaceutical interventions such as the use of face masks, constant hand washing, as well as maintaining proper respiratory hygiene.
And now to discuss the issue of adherence to the COVID-19 protocols, we're joined on the news at 10 by the National Coordinator of the PTF on COVID-19, Dr. Sani Aliyu. You're welcome to the news at 10.
Good evening.
Good evening to you, sir. How worried are you about the issue of poor compliance to the COVID-19 protocols across the country?
Well, we remain quite concerned about the level of compliance. Just today, this afternoon, I went out in Abuja, and I was quite concerned about the degree of compliance, including in places that really should know better, places that provide business to the general public. There was very little enforcement. But we know that this is all about behavioral change. Nigeria is not the only country where we are facing this sort of issue. Globally, across the world, we are seeing the same pattern. The COVID pandemic is an unusual one because it's not behaving like a normal pandemic. With a normal pandemic, you have the shock factor where you see a lot of people dying, dead bodies on the streets, or people bleeding to death. Sort of a really shocking pictures that force people to change their behavior. Whereas with COVID, we know that the majority of people would suffer the infection, but will still get better. So what we are doing is we're trying to change the narrative rather than saying, look, if COVID catches you, you may die, which of course you may, but it's really a case of trying to protect your loved ones, trying to protect your parents, your neighbors, people that are elderly, people that are vulnerable, people that are most likely to die. In addition to this, you really cannot predict if you get COVID, whether or not you're going to be alive. The youngest person to die in the FCT, for instance, was just 38 years old. So it's like playing Russian roulette. In Nigeria, about 18% of those above the age of 65 died from COVID. And that's a pretty high mortality rate. It's almost a 1 in 6. Out of one in every 6 persons would die. But we know the challenges with behavioral change. We know that the COVID pandemic has been with us for quite a while. People have become really fatigued and tired of the issue. People don't want to wear masks because this is an invisible enemy. You don't really see it when you go out. It's a silent enemy that definitely kills. But we have to persevere. And one of the things that also concerns us is the perception that this thing is over. One of the reasons why we've been relaxing the restrictions is in order to get our economy up and moving. But the public need to realize that unless we take these non-pharmaceutical interventions seriously, it's the only thing that would slow down and stop the pandemic fairly early on. If we don't, and the pandemic continues to grumble, then we will all suffer for it. Not only people will die, but our economy will take a much longer time to recover. Because as government, we cannot just sit back and allow people to catch a preventable disease and end up dying. We will end up placing more restrictions. So as I said to the person I met today when I went out in Abuja, if you really want this to be over, you've got to try and keep to those non-pharmaceutical interventions, wear a mask, keep social distance.
And we hope those suggestions, those protocols are followed to the letter. Dr. Sani Aliu, the National Coordinator of the PTF on COVID-19. But as far as compliance goes, Dr. Aliu, a lot has been said in the way of enforcement. What more do you think can the government do to reverse the trend of lack of compliance?
So we know that with behavioral change, what works most is convincing people that they are at risk. In other words, effective risk communication and engaging the community. Not only improving the message that we are pushing out, but also changing the messengers themselves. So engaging with traditional rulers, religious authorities, and making sure we have their support in pushing the message out. Obviously, the media have a major role. We have been working very closely right down to the grassroots level in terms of mobilization. Even as we speak in 17 states, we have over 18,000 volunteers that are going house to house and providing information. We have motorized campaigns. We have campaigns that involve face mask training with market women. And as you can see with the social media, there's a major campaign as well that has been going on for the last 1 week. But it's all about making people aware that if you don't wear a mask, if you do not take care, if you go out into the general public without any sort of protection, you're very likely to catch the illness. And if you catch the illness, we just cannot say whether you will fall in that 80-90% of people who would survive it, or you will fall within the minority that wouldn't. And I'm sure none of us want to be carried away by COVID, because COVID will go away, but it will carry away a lot of people with it. Already we can see the sort of deaths that have happened in other parts of the world. Nigeria is not an isolated case. As we have about 1,000 people that have died from COVID, but I'm sure we have had a lot more that we haven't measured. And again, I'll emphasize that the numbers we are seeing now are an underestimate of what we've actually had, because our testing rates are still relatively low. Our general capacity for testing on a daily basis is about 10,000 tests a day, but we're only testing between 2,000 to 3,000 per day, partly because we are not getting the sort of demand we expect. We've increased the number of laboratories to 62, but a lot of these labs are operating way, way below capacity. So we will continue to encourage the state governments in particular and our community leaders to please take up the fight, and together we can fight this and we can win. But the general public need to be aware this infection is still very much around it is still killing people, and we need to take care.
Yes, indeed, and we hope that awareness leads to action on both sides, the people and the government as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Sani Aliyu, the National Coordinator of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, for speaking with us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, now we turn our attention to the Federal Capital Territory. Residents of Apo community are moving what is left of their belongings after their residences were demolished in the early hours of Saturday, August 15th. According to the residents, who are majorly the original natives of the Federal Capital Territory, bulldozers from the Federal Capital Development Authority stormed their area about 4 o'clock in the morning and demolished over 100 houses. A spokesman for the FCT natives, Comrade Yunusa Yusuf, explains that the residents were not given adequate notice before the exercise was carried out. To Rivers State, Governor Nyesom Wike has given assurances of his government's support for the multi-billion-dollar NLNG Train 7 project, but cautioned multinational companies against shortchanging indigents and host communities in the interest of peace. The governor made the comments when a delegation from the NLNG Train 7 project paid him a courtesy visit at the Government House in Port Harcourt, the state capital. He also commended the team for following through with their implementation plans while demanding for 50% of choice employment opportunities for the indigents of the state.
Delegation from multinational companies, including NLNG, Saipem and Daewoo, on a courtesy visit to Governor Nyesom Wike to seek support and officially introduce the SCD Joint Venture Consortium for the multi-billion dollars NLNG Train 7 project in Rivers State. The leader of the team and managing director of the Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas, Mr. Tony Atta, says the contract agreement for Train 7 project is in compliance with the Local Content Act to guarantee employment for the people of the state.
We believe that the two most important issues that we tackle on a day-to-day basis, not just as Rivers people, but as Nigerians, is poverty and unemployment. And anyone you deal with, the other will fall away. In this case, we believe that this project will contribute very positively to tackle the spate of unemployment and the vagaries that come with it.
Governor Wike commends the team for following through with their plans to implement the project and assured them of the state government's support. He, however, cautions against shortchanging the host communities and indigents in the interest of peace.
Anything has to do with security, logistics, let us know. We'll give you all the necessary support. But my own concern, do not abandon the communities that you operate. Boni, Rumolumene, Rivers people, Bayelsa people, employ them. But if you don't do that, my hands are off. We want Rivers people to have more than 50%. I will not say Nigeria should not be employed. You know, I won't say that. I will not say other states will not be employed, no. But Rivers State, out of 12,000 jobs, assuming Rivers State should have that not less than 50% of those jobs.
The new Train 7 project is expected to generate about $20 billion in revenue for the federal government and create over 10,000 direct jobs with potentially improved capacity of 30 million tons per annum. Jeffrey Uzongo, Channels Television News.
Speaking of empowering the youth, the Rose of Sharon Foundation, a non-governmental organization focused on improving the lives of widows and orphans in the country, has held its first youth empowerment program for the year. Connecting with today's reality in the face of the pandemic, the organization focused on building personal competence to harness available opportunities. The event, which was held in Lagos, southwest Nigeria, was in accordance with the COVID-19 safety protocol, with hosts and speakers personally present at the venue while other participants joined virtually.
We are going to be looking at a special topic.
Mrs. Nkem Udechukwu, coordinator of the Rose of Sharon Foundation, opens the program with 3 speakers who have been intentionally chosen to speak to what the youth need at this time. The National Population Commission states that about half of the population, which is about 100 million, is made up of youth, defined as individuals between 15 and 34 years of age.
The year 2020 has been a challenging one for all of us.
The founder of the foundation, Apostle Folorunsho Alakija, encourages this group of Nigerians to change the perspective and grasp the opportunities in the new norm.
While some businesses are becoming redundant, losing market share, or closing shop, some others are actually springing up and taking over the markets. So, what is the difference? There's an adage that says, change is the only thing that is constant in life.
The target audience, restricted to virtual participation, take to various social media platforms to join the program, which is centered around building personal competence to harness existing opportunities in the time of change.
Building competence, build your confidence. It is similar to cleaning a house. It never stops. When you stop cleaning your house, dust collects in your house.
Taking responsibility is the perspective that the next speaker brings to the discussion. She poses questions which individuals should digest and answer before taking decisions.
What route do you want to take in life? As a person, you need to understand that very clearly. Do you want to go the route of an entrepreneur, for instance? In other words, you're willing to take risks and ensure that you make profits in your business. Or do you want to take the route of an entrepreneur?
Mr. Inoko Yeduton builds on this by introducing the SWOT analysis.
Your strength basically means your talent. It basically means what you are good at, what you can outshine an average person at.
This is the 6th edition of the Youth Empowerment Program, and the founder challenges the youths to practice the knowledge gained from the discussion.
We have received from our audience from all over the country.
In Kano State, Governor Abdullahi Ganduje has directed the chairman of the Public Complaints and Anti-Corruption Commission, Mr. Muyi Magaji, not to compromise in the fight against corruption in the state. Speaking during a visit to the headquarters of the Public Complaints and Anti-Corruption Commission, Governor Ganduje says he will not stand in the way of prosecution of any public office holder in the state. In his words, whosoever falls in the commission's trap shall face the consequence. I will have nothing to do with it. I will not interfere with any case whosoever might be involved. He adds that for the fight against corruption to succeed, the federal government needs to involve states as well as the local government councils. And now for business news, here's BC Adebayo.
Welcome to Business News. The Securities and Exchange Commission is set to hold its first Capital Market Committee meeting of the year from Thursday, August the 20th to Friday, August the 21st. According to a statement from the SEC, the CMC meeting, earlier planned for April this year, was suspended as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdown measures imposed by the federal government during the period. The SEC adds that the leadership transition phase at the Commission was also responsible for the delay in carrying out the meeting. The CMC meeting has been a medium for exchange on the 10-year Capital Market Master Plan initiative to record feedback on stakeholders' resolutions in an effort to improve market operations and regulatory framework. The Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission says it received 8 new applications and 3 extended requests in the second quarter of 2020 under the Pioneer Status Incentive Program of the federal government. Latest data from the agency shows that no approval nor denial has been granted to the applications within the period under review. According to the data, Rensource Distributed Energy is the only company with production date certificates confirmed by the NIPC. As at June the 30th, 2020, 35 companies still have their pioneer status incentive, while 145 applications remain pending with the NIPC. Meantime, latest report from the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Corporation shows that a total of 206.7 billion naira has been paid by distribution companies for energy received from the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading Company for services provided by market operators. The report states that the figure represents 31% from the total invoice of 671 billion naira, leaving a deficit of 464.3 billion naira in 2018. According to the NERC, this is partly due to non-implementation of cost-reflective tariffs, losses from energy theft, and consumer apathy to paying for estimated billing services. Regarding metering for customers, NERC states that only 3.7 million customers have been metered, representing only 43% of the total 8.7 million registered electricity consumers. Now we have more positive news for Africa's trade liberalization, as Ghana has announced that its president, Nana Akufo-Addo, will on Monday, August the 17th, commission and hand over the permanent secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area. The secretariat's March operational date was postponed due to the effects of COVID-19 on the continent, but will now be ready for Africa's trading position by January the 1st, 2020, which is the new commencement date. According to President Akufo-Addo, the Secretariat has been reconfigured based on specific requirements agreed with the African Union Commission, including the installation of critical data and IT infrastructure facilities, as outstanding resolutions of the AFCFTA will now be done virtually. Meantime, Somalia is the latest country to approve the AFCFTA pact. And that's it on Business News. It's back to you, Olumide.
Thank you, BC. The Minister of Transportation, Mr. Rotimi Amechi, has carried out the monthly inspection tour of the Lagos-Ibadan Standard Gauge Rail Project. The minister was accompanied by his counterpart, Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, as well as top officials of the Nigerian Railway Corporation. The ministers who drove in a standard gauge train for the first time inspected the construction of all boarding stations and yards along the route, beginning from the railway mega station in Ebute-Metta in Lagos and then Ibadan in Oyo State. Both ministers expressed satisfaction at the pace of work, despite the delay caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. They did not mention when the project will be completed. Meanwhile, the managing director of Nigerian Railway Corporation says skeletal operations are likely to begin from Yaba to Ibadan in September, despite the non-completion of boarding stations along the route.
We didn't borrow money for services. We did not borrow money for overhead expenditures. We borrowed money for capital projects, rails, roads, bridges, power, general infrastructure. And this is the first, this administration, of the series of inspections we are going to take along with you, so that you can better enlighten Nigerians that there's nothing bad in borrowing, provided that borrowing is invested in infrastructure. There's nothing bad in borrowing, especially when that borrowing is going to create jobs or going to create an enable environment for the economy. I'm very excited, not because, just because I'm the Minister of Information. So when I got into the train this morning, especially this one, it's as clean, as modern as any coach anywhere in the world. And I was also quite impressed with the passion of the Honourable Minister. You can see that at every point in time, he's pushing the contractors. Say, look, I can't wait till October. I'll come back in 4 weeks' time.
So when we talk to the National Assembly to stop this investigation of loan, they're not investigating corruption in construction. It's the issue of loan. What we meant is that they should please allow us get the loan for Ibadan to Kano, which is about $5.3 billion. Because if you're telling the man who lent you money that you don't like the way he lent you money, he won't lend you any further. That's the point. But for this one, we have 1.6 billion, for which we're contributing about between $200 and $300 million. But don't forget, they have not finished paying. They could stop at any time.
And now for sports news, here's Ayo Tunde Balogun.
And thanks, Olumide. Confederation of African Football (CAF) has postponed the qualifiers for the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup scheduled for September 2020. The continent's football governing body took the decision due to travel restrictions across parts of Africa as a result of COVID-19. The revised fixtures for the qualifiers will be announced in due course after consultation with the various stakeholders. 2 teams will qualify to represent Africa at the tournament to be held in Costa Rica and Panama next year. In football, French side Olympique Lyon pulled off a big upset in the quarter-final of the UEFA Champions League after beating Manchester City 3-1. Lyon led through Maxwell Cornet's 20-yard curling effort, but Kevin De Bruyne levelled for City with a smart finish. 2 goals within 10 minutes from substitute Moussa Dembele sent Lyon to the semi-finals as Rudy Garcia's men held on for a famous victory. Lyon will now face Bayern Munich in the semi-final. Manchester United FC manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer says it is time for his big players to step up and get the club into the Europa League final. United will face Sevilla in Cologne on Sunday, with a place in the final up for grabs, and ahead of the game, Solskjaer has called on star players including Paul Pogba, Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford to deliver on the big stage. It will be United's 3rd semi-final of the season after disappointment in the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup.
We've got to be clever, creative, and of course we have to, as I said, step up in the big moments. Is that the pass, the last pass is the finish, because these games will be decided on so often on either a set piece or a piece of individual brilliance by some players. It's time to step up for big players. A little moment can change a game, can win you the game, can lose you the game. And we've learned that it's very painful to lose a semi-final.
Formula One Championship leader Lewis Hamilton clinched a record-extending 92nd career pole position in the Mercedes front-row lockout with teammate Valtteri Bottas at the Spanish Grand Prix. Hamilton has won for the past 3 years at the Circuit de Catalunya outside of Barcelona and was quickest in all 3 phases of qualifying. Red Bull's Max Verstappen will start at 3rd place with Mexican Sergio Perez lining up 4th for Racing Point on his return after missing 2 races owing to COVID-19. That's sports news. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun.
Still ahead on the news at 10. Before that, Russia's health ministry says it has started production of a new vaccine for COVID-19 that will be rolled out at the end of the month. However, an independent poll has revealed that over half of the medics in the country say they are not ready to get vaccinated as they do not trust the vaccine. Here's more and other developments on our COVID-19 global update.
Russia has started manufacturing its coronavirus vaccine, which was approved by the Russian government this week, despite concerns from some international health experts that the speed in which the vaccine was approved could compromise its safety. Russian officials say the vaccine will be gradually rolled out to high-risk people by the end of this month, before a mass vaccination of Russians begins in October. The vaccine will be made available to other countries around November. Over in India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi says the country is ready to mass-produce COVID-19 vaccines when scientists give the go-ahead. The country's confirmed coronavirus cases have crossed 2.5 million, with another biggest single-day spike of over 65,000 cases in the past 24 hours. New Zealand authorities are investigating a possible link between the country's new coronavirus outbreak and COVID-19 infections in the Australian state of Victoria. Officials are scrambling to find the source of the outbreak that resulted in restrictions being tightened again this week. There are now 37 cases linked to the latest outbreak after 7 more infections were recorded on Saturday. Meanwhile, the Australian state of Victoria has reported a considerable drop in new cases, but officials have warned against complacency as the virus continues to spread in areas outside Melbourne.
Cases now in Victoria seems to have stabilised. The number of new cases.
And the main news again. The Bayelsa State Election Petition Tribunal, which sat in Abuja today, affirmed the election of Doyediri as the duly elected governor of Bayelsa State, as it dismissed all 3 petitions against his victory in the 2019 governorship poll. Also today, the All Progressives Congress and People's Democratic Party in Edo State continued their campaign in the state's capital, Benin City, ahead of the September 19th governorship election. And an independent poll today showed that half of medics in Russia have rejected the country's COVID-19 vaccine due to be rolled out at the end of the month. That's it on the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Olumide Mokol.